Hi everyone, welcome back. Facebook Live, this is part 2. I am Chris Blair. I'm the Community Relations Director of the Kenwood by Senior Star, and wanted to kind of get back to all of you and talk a little bit more about the area of assisted living. I've been doing this now, I hate to say this, about 30 years, and this is an area that I get a lot of questions. So I kind of wanted to go back over it again and hopefully dispel any type of myths and have you really understand what assisted living is all about and levels of care. So let's just get into it. So here's the basics. So what is assisted living? Assisted living is basically for folks, that need help with bathing, dressing, maybe, your meals, medications being administered, just things that you would need help with, during the day just to get through your day. Maybe help, with going to the restroom and things. So all of these areas, whether it's help with meals or help with medications, these are called activities of daily living. Or a lot of times you'll see the abbreviation of that called ADLs, activities of daily living. So activities of daily living, is a wide range of different things, but the basics to it is, again, the bathing, the grooming, mobility, helping with mobility, medication administration, food preparation. So you need to understand, just how much do you need of that, or your parents need of that, and that'll better help, when you go out to these communities to understand, how the payment is set up, which I'm going to explain to you in a little bit. So if you start to hear some things that definitely that you like or interested, just give us a big like on there so that we kind of know we're hitting the right target there. In assisted living, that is where your long-term care, for those of you who have long-term care insurance, will fully kick in. In your long-term care insurance, long-term care is typically purchased for long-term nursing care, in a nursing home. But within now, the newer policies over the last, 15, 20 years, the assisted living is also now included in that. Now, in the long-term care insurance, what long-term care says, hey, you can use me, but you need 3 out of 5 ADLs, 3 out of 5 activities of daily living. Or some policies will say you need, if you need help at 5 out of 7 activities of daily living, then I will help offset your expenses in assisted living, and we will kick in and help you pay for that. So that's why it's important to know exactly what your mom or dad needs help with, ADLs, so that way you also then can understand the long-term care policy in order to get that kicked in. Typically, when someone moves to assisted living, they need all those services. So I've really never had a problem with long-term care getting activated. So, but again, you need to know all that in order to really understand all the lingo that's going on. Now, when you're in assisted living, all that care with the bathing, the dressing, the medications, all that, it's all included in that pricing. And so because of that, so your monthly rent has all that care in it. That's why it's a little more expensive. You see the rates go up, and I'll explain that here in a little bit, what that means. You'll see the rates go up because the care is included. So because of that, I want you all to be aware that the IRS allows a lot of you to start looking at that as possibly as a medical expense, so you can start looking at possibly taking that off your taxes. You need to talk to your financial people, and they'll be able to run your numbers and everything. And if you are able to do that, I see typically 30-40% of that monthly rent you would be able to use for taxes, okay? Now, so having said all that, ADLs, long-term care insurance is kicking in, the possible tax break, hopefully you're getting kind of the gist of what all that means. What I want to delve into a little bit more is what they call levels of care within the assisted living. What is that? So basically, to break that down, levels of care of assisted living is, so when you go into assisted living programs, people are always going to tell you this base rent. This is how much it's going to cost to live here, for all your meals and your housekeeping and a little bit of help and some of your medications. But what happens is every community has multiple levels of care that they offer within their program. So, for example, let's say Mrs. Jones comes in. She needs just a little bit of help. So she needs help, maybe with a little bit of a shower and some meals and her meds, and that's about it. So she might be at what they call a level 1, and each level, and communities can have 9 levels. Some communities have 12 levels. I know communities out there that have no ceiling to levels. Every level, level 1, level 2, level 3, as high as they go, carries a dollar amount. So each level has a separate dollar amount that is attached to that base rent they quoted you. So, maybe level 1's an additional $300. Level 2 could be an additional $500. So that's why you need to understand, what does my mom actually need? What are her ADLs that she needs? So that way I can understand where it puts her in that level. So again, let's say Mrs. Jones just needs a little bit of help. She's level 1. But I got Mr. Smith coming in, and he needs a lot more help. He needs a lot more help with your shower. Mobility may be a challenge, getting to and from places. He might need more escorts to and from than Mrs. Jones does. So he might be in a level 4, and that might tack on another $800. So you all need to understand exactly, that community, how many levels do you have, and how much is each level? And how do you determine how my mom gets into each level? And basically how that's determined, it's an assessment that's done. And it's an initial assessment, when someone's moving in, so then you have, your mom's a level 3 and this is your base rent. But then as someone is aging in place in assisted living, there's continued assessments that are being done that may push that person into higher and higher levels. So you need to understand, how are those assessments done? And basically what they do, they do an assessment. Can you do this? Or you need help with this? Check. Oh, you need help with that? Check. Oh, you need help with, you need a glass of water by your bed every night because you're not able to do that? Check. Each check mark carries, there's a point. So that's 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. And all of a sudden they tally that up, and maybe you're at 80 points. Well, 80 points equals level 4. Level 4 equals another $500. So that's how a lot of places will do it, by just continually keeping track of how much care that you need. And if you don't understand that, you need to understand, the basics of it. The cost can kind of sometimes get a little out of control, where you're not able to, budget on a monthly basis. And you need to know, how high can this actually go? Now, with all those levels, what you also have to, ask the question is there a point that you can't, you're not able to provide care for my parent, my mom or my dad? In assisted living, they can only do so much. And so typically, you need to understand there is a point where you can cross that line, and maybe more care is needed. Maybe mom needs to go into a memory support because of her dementia or Alzheimer's is getting a lot worse. And it's not truly an assisted living that she can reside in anymore. Or physically, a lot of times I'll see people start to become challenged with their mobility, with their walking, transferring, getting up in and out of a chair or in and out of a bed or on and off, going to the bathroom, on and off the toilet. A lot of communities, if it takes more than one person, it's called a 2-person assist. It takes 2 people to help someone up out of a bed or out of a chair. Sometimes it pushes the envelope of the care in assisted living. And at that point, you're in a high level of care. You might be in a level 8 or 5 or whatever that community has, and you're going to see the pricing go up, and they're at an edge to where maybe that community cannot take care of them any longer, and you need to look to see of other areas, whether it's memory support or nursing care. So you need to understand how far can you take the care within assisted living. So are y'all understanding that? If you do, just like us on the Facebook. So within the levels of care, there's room to grow. So like maybe you're in a level 2 and you start to have problems and things, but you need to understand how much padding is there between each level. So before you go into that next level, level 3. Are there different things that community or maybe you as a child can help your parents do to keep them in that level and not grow into that next level? So if someone starts to have, let's see, example, like if they start to have problems with getting in and out of a chair, maybe that's time to get some physical therapy in to help with that. And also look at the chair. Is the chair now sitting too low for your parent? Do you need to buy a different chair that has arms in it? Or maybe look at those recliner chairs that actually helps, with the electric, that helps lift you up out of a chair. And maybe that resolves the problem, and that keeps your mom from going from a level 2 to a level 3. So you need to understand if a community tells you, hey, mom needs to go to a level 3, well, why? Why does she need to go to a level? What is it that's making her go into a level 3? And question that and say, well, if she's having a hard time getting out of a chair and you all have to come in and help pick her up, let's get some physical therapy in. Let's buy a new chair instead of just automatically going into a level 3. And you could have resolved that by just changing the environment. Sometimes it's out of your control, but you need to constantly question. My suggestion too is maybe call a care conference and have that healthcare team sit there and explain to you why they're making the decision that they're making. And, be proactive and say, well, let's try different things and see what happens. And a lot of times that could, resolve a lot of the challenges and stuff. And sometimes they're so simple, you just you can't think about everything all the time at once. So it's nice sometimes to bring the whole team together. The other thing I want you all to, which I'm always surprised a lot of people aren't doing now with the technology and stuff nowadays, you need to get online and also look at that community state survey. All of us, we are all licensed by the state of Ohio, and we get an annual survey. And the state comes in and they're looking at different things. They're looking at care, and they're looking at, how we prepare food and the cleanliness of the building, and are we keeping the records straight and all this stuff. So it doesn't need to be your deciding factor, but it needs to be a big piece. And I find a lot of people don't go online to look at the state surveys. That just gives you an indication maybe of that community's challenges. And so when you go out, you need to ask them about it and say, I saw in your state survey that you were having challenges with, I don't know, your food preparation and keeping your food nice and hot or whatever. And allow them to be able to give you your answer and say, well, we rectify that by doing this. Or if there's some care issues, bring it up. Say, hey, I saw in your state survey you had some care issues with, whatever that you find, and see what they say. And so you need that as a part of your toolbox when you go out to look at these communities to know what these state surveys are. And that'll just kind of help give you an indication, kind of a baseline of where you're starting at. So again, assisted living, as a whole, basically, it's what it says. It's assistance with living. And again, the ADLs, activities of daily living, the bathing, the dressing, the mobility, the food, the medication administration, all that, figuring out how much of all those things you need figures out what level you're in, which then equals out to the actual dollar amount that you're going to spend. So once you figure all that out and you know, okay, all right, so my mom's going to pay $6,000 a month for assisted living. She's in a level 3. That means $6,000 a month, $5,000 a month, whatever it is. Then you start looking at the tax break with the IRS, and then you got your long-term care insurance if you have it that kicks in. You're able to deduct all that, and then the possible tax break. Then you'll know your bottom line dollar to start budgeting for your parent. And once you kind of get the hang of that and you start to go out to the communities, then you really get an idea of what the actual dollar amount will be. And then hopefully it won't be so confusing that way. The last kind of big suggestion I have, you know, you've done all this, you've done all your homework, you've done the state survey, you know, you walked around with someone like me and we're explaining all this stuff and your head is spinning. You know, once you settle down, you need to go back out to those communities that you think might be a fit for your parent. And you need to just pop in on a day that someone like me is not there. Talk to the residents, talk to the visitors that are there, and then they will also then give you what their experiences have been and some more insight. So anyways, that is my version of assisted living. I hope you all liked it.
Question.
We got a question.
Can you tell us where they find the state survey at?
State survey is what you do. You go into statesurvey.gov.
Medicare.gov?
Yeah, Medicare. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Medicare.gov. And when you go into Medicare.gov, you'll be able to look for the city, the state, the city. And then if you know the community's name, I think you can type in the community's name. If not, you'll be able to search it, and then you'll be able to see the state survey. Also on the state survey, when you go into these communities, they should have it that year's state survey. They should have it readily available to be able to show it to you too, if you're not able to go on there and take a look. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Can you tell us about the star rating that they give, with if you have a 5-star or 4-star or a 3-star?
Well, that's all has to do with the survey. That has to do with their staffing. Is their staffing at par? Is their care at par? You know, obviously the 5-star is the highest level. 4-star, you know, there's maybe some challenges there, and you need to read and find out what those challenges are. Now, I hope I don't have any state surveys online right here from what I'm getting ready to say. You know, you need to really read the state survey. I mean, the state surveyors, they're great. The state regulations, they're there for a reason. But, you know, I would overlook something like, that community got zinged on the fact because the breadcrumbs in the bottom of the toasters weren't cleaned out. You know, I mean, that's how detailed the state survey goes. I mean, they check the temperature of the refrigerators. You know, you want to look for the obvious. What's their care? You know, what type, have they been getting care violations? You know, what's the cleanliness of the building? The staff, is it staffed at the right level? So the state takes all that in consideration, and that's how they give them the star rating. So obviously, like any type of ratings, you know, you want to look for the top rated communities, ones that are rated 1 and 2. Personally, and I kind of question if I'd want to go out to visit those communities. But again, you might go out there and find, well, the reason why you're at a 2, it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be for care issues. It was other things that I think, you know, my mom would still get care there. So you've got to do your due diligence. You look at your state surveys. You go out, and then you already know what their challenges are, and you need to address that with that community. So,
can you tell about the accreditations that the Kenwood has?
The Kenwood, well, I'm very proud to say, first of all, let's see, what is it, 7 years now. We've been open 7 years since 2010, and our state surveys, knock on wood, we have had a deficiency-free, meaning basically 100% surveys since we've opened. So that is pretty much unheard of, and that's in our entire healthcare, our assisted living, memory support, and nursing care. And then recently, we were CARF certified, and basically that's a whole nother, that might be on Facebook Live 3, but a CARF accreditation, basically, it just holds us to even a higher standard, even more and above what the state holds us to. And we just were accredited with the CARF survey as well. So very proud of that. We just received that last year. So any more questions?
Can you tell us just briefly about the apartment options that the Kenwood has?
The apartment options at the Kenwood, across the board, there's various apartments and independent. There's 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3-bedroom apartments. They range from 800 to 2,200 square feet. Assisted living, your studios, 1 bedrooms, large 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. They basically go 500-600 feet all the way up to 1,200 square feet. Same for memory support, same type of square footage. What's a little bit unique with us with our nursing, it's not a room, it's an apartment. So if you had someone in our nursing and you came to visit, you'd actually walk right into their living room with their furniture, which is a little unusual. It makes it their home. And we're also, within 3-4 weeks, we're getting ready to open up another section of our building. It's called the Bluffs. It's a building that sits on our campus. Totally different lifestyle. It's basically an apartment style living. You can use the building of the main Kenwood, but yet maybe you don't need all those services. And those apartments, they range from about 1,400 square feet, and they go up to over 2,000 square feet. So we have a little bit of everything. So if you're looking for something, we've got it here. So any more questions?
No.
I think that does it. Look for Facebook Live 3. If you have any questions or maybe some suggestions of what you might want to hear, let us know. And thanks for tuning in, and just give us a like. I appreciate it. Thank you.